Hi, everyone.
Hi. We're going to give you all the time to come on in with us on this wonderful Hump Day Wednesday. We have the awesome, my adopted city councilwoman in the city of South Fulton here with us. And so I'm going to give some of you time to get to join. We have the no-nonsense Helen Zenobia Willis. She is the D3 city councilwoman for the new city of South Fulton. And as I wait for some of you to join, I'm just going to tell you guys that I have a little housekeeping that I need to do. And I kind of mentioned this to, hey, Beth.
Hi. District 3 resident.
District 3 resident. So
an avid supporter.
Yes, she was out there protesting with us at the gas stations. She wasn't really telling people that the gas station, what was the saying that we had when we were protesting? Because we weren't boycotting. Yeah, Helen groomed me for the bullhorn.
Right.
And she had one that day. It so inspired me. Hey, Brandon, it so inspired me to go buy one. And when we were doing the high crimes at gas stations, I met Helen while I was out trying to figure out why was this happening.
Rhonda.
Hey, Rhonda. Ooh, your people showing up.
They always do. That's why I don't take my seat for granted.
I know you don't because I worked with you before you were elected. Hey, Miss Harvey. And so Helen and I met through a post that I put. Hey,
Magic.
Michael.
Hey, Magic.
Hey, Nick. I can watch for a minute, but I'm about to put, even the boys are bad, Nick. All right, we're glad you're here. He is an awesome dad. Hey, Dorsha.
Hey, Dorsha.
Ooh, it is packed up in here. It's because you're here, Helen. And so I'm going to get through the story, though. As I was emailing or trying to let people know in next door that there was a huge problem at gas stations, Helen replied to me and she said, hey, how can I help? Chief Meadows from College Park. Oh my God. I want to high five you, Chief Meadows. Thanks for joining us.
You know, he made the Sbarros very popular.
Oh my God. After I just met him, I was saying, I remember seeing him on, was it Cops?
It was Cops. I've seen him on everything.
I've seen you all over television. Had no idea you were such a celebrity, Chief Meadows. Mm-hmm. So we have Chief Meadows just joined us from College Park Police, the chief of College Park Police. Welcome, welcome. So when we were doing the high crowds at gas stations, Helen responded to my message and said, hey, the gas station that you're about to protest, that's in my hood. Mm-hmm. And how can I help? Helen and I became friends along the way. She immediately rolled up her sleeve. She just got on the phone and started making phone calls, you guys. And along with, of course, Marvin Arrington, we had Carell, we had Harold Hartnett in Atlanta. It was such a huge effort. We had Beth, we had some other, my husband, I don't want to call names because I will probably forget the people that came that day, but we were out there to warn people that that gas station was not safe. Mm-hmm. Someone had just been killed, and I think someone had just been killed and someone had just been robbed before we got there. Right. And so that's how I met Helen. This is why I've been such an advocate for Helen, because I met her before she was running for office. So I knew her work ethic. I knew her character. I've eaten some of her food. This woman can cook her butt off. And she is a real person. On the High Crime at Gas Station initiative, Helen kept it real. And she and we would go sometimes. It wasn't a fight, but it was, we were both passionate.
Right.
And so we stayed true to our truths. But at the end, I think I've even said this to Helen, wounds of a friend can be trusted. And anything she would tell me, and sometimes I would be like, I don't believe that. And anyway, Helen was normally always right. I think I was right one time. Yeah. But Helen, you guys, is just a true community champion. So yes, Sam, she is the real deal. Hey, Davina. Hey, LaToya, girl, all your people are here. She says, Dorsha, Demita. Hey, Demita. And so anyway, Demita. I want to clear up a few things. I know this may not be the right time, but hey, Kirk, someone challenged my residency today, and it has come up a couple of times. And I just want you guys, I don't know if you can see this. Can y'all see this? Is it backwards? Do y'all see this? Okay, so do y'all see it says Fulton County Assessor's Office? That's my name. I did black out my maiden name. And that's my address. It's 1332 Stone Bay Drive. That is in D1. Okay. So what I want you, hey, Dr. Martin, that haircut is cute. Thank you. But I want to address this because this has come up several times. And today someone said, thank you for being a resident of East Point, and basically saying, thank you for caring about our city in South Fulton. So I want to clear something up for you guys. I have several properties, and it's a shame that I have to explain this, but the reason why residency will come up is when you're running for office. I have always said, I don't have the intentions for running for office. So where I lay my head for the 19th time is nobody's business. But I am a resident now and a taxpayer in two places, just for the record. So since this is Facebook Live, I wanted to deal with that because someone really tried me today. And it's not the first time, but I'm hoping it will be the last time. So we must move on from the pity patter chatter from people who are really trying to do positive things in the community, people who are out here trying to combat crime and trying to find solutions. It may not be what you would do, but I just think I needed to deal with that, Helen, because it has come up a couple of times. Some people have even told you she doesn't live in the city. Right. My son goes to Wolf Creek Elementary. That is in Helen's district. He plays football at Welcome All Park. He's been there for 3 years. We've been in South Fulton since 2010. So some of you may not think that I live in the city. I just wanted to clear it up. I do own several properties. So let's just, stop trying to challenge my residency until I put in an application. Is that what it's called? To run for something? That's when you guys should be concerned. When I put in, is it an application? What is it called?
It is
an intent.
Intent to run for office.
When I put in an intent to run, perhaps it must be a threat because it keeps coming up, but I have no intentions of running.
Well, I appreciate your service to our community. I know our mayor does. We can't do this alone, and we wish we had more Daphne Jordans, and many of the individuals that's on this Facebook Live are also community members that worked alongside with me for 6 or 5 years. And so we got to do this together.
We do.
And we're going to be successful. We're going through some growing pains now, but I believe cityhood is a good idea, and I fought for it for 6 years, and we're going to be successful. Okay. And we appreciate everything that you do. Well,
I appreciate that you appreciate it because you were out here with me prior to becoming elected. So, Fran, thank you, Fran. Thank you, Dr. Martin. Dr. Martin said it's a declaration of intent.
Yes.
But I have no intentions of filling that out. Nick says, Daphne for city. Okay, Nick, let's calm down because some of your counterparts may not be too happy about it. But I had some questions that I wanted to start out with. Did I give them to you? Okay, so I'm going to start out with some questions. I did take the questions that I had received. If you still have questions, you can send them to safercommunitiesnow@gmail.com, and I will just add them to this list. So Helen, tell us, how did you get to this point as an elected official?
Well, I did not plan to run for office. I want to say that. What I did plan is for us to secure cityhood and secure our borders. Over the years, what we experienced in South Fulton was people coming after our most valued prized possessions, our land. And as cities began to cooperate up north, that only left one SSD, which was the South. And so as areas were annexed out of the South, the closer it put us to other municipalities. And so other municipalities were coming after the land and unincorporated South Fulton.
That's how we got those warehouses
That's how we got the warehouses. That's how we got Guilford Forest was once in the city of South Fulton, and in unincorporated South Fulton. It's now in Atlanta. Just a large, most of Chattahoochee Hills was in unincorporated South Fulton, and it's now in Chattahoochee Hills.
Yeah.
And so that's when we said, look, the only way we were going to be able to protect our borders was to become a city, incorporate. And so The moving, the pivotal point for us was when one of our neighboring cities came after our schools. And so when they came after our schools, and they didn't necessarily want the schools, but because the area that they were coming to annex, it included the schools, that's when the momentum really got strong.
And that also includes the tax dollars too, right?
Yes.
If it includes the schools, okay.
And so therefore, but to replace the schools, it would have impacted overall Fulton County, because it's not just the specific cities that take care of the Fulton County school budget. Okay. All of Fulton County, with the exception of Atlanta, because they have their own school district, would have had to replace those schools, which would have been approximately $58 million. And so, therefore, the only way we were going to stop the annexation attempts is to become a city, lock our borders. That was the only thing that was going to lock our borders. Also,
so which school are you referring to? Westlake? Is that the one that was?
The schools that were in danger of being annexed was Sandtown Middle and A. Philip Randolph.
Okay.
And also, we did not have access to our tax dollars. With us not being a city, we didn't have access to local option sales tax. We didn't have access to franchise fees. And so basically, our local option sales tax was going in one part, which was the general fund. And things, I'm finding now that we are a city, several of our facilities weren't upgraded. And the constant thing is, look, we made the request, but we were told no. So now we don't have to worry about that because we're in control of what happens with our money. Okay. So it was in our best interest to become a city so that we can have access to our tax dollars, and so that we didn't have to worry about being annexed into our bordering cities, and we didn't have to worry about our schools and the children being displaced and our education system being disrupted. Okay. And so a feasibility study was done, and you cannot become a city unless you can show that you're financially viable. Okay. And of course, it came back and said we're financially viable. But I got involved with the cityhood movement in 2014 and never left it. It failed. The bill failed twice. And I continued the education, the advocacy for us to become a city. Also, I worked in my party, Democratic Party. I worked on several campaigns.
I know you invited me to one of the events.
I worked on several campaigns, helped other candidates. And so advocacy was something that I have been doing for the past 5-6 years. I've served on a charter school board, Hateville Charter Career Academy, for 4 years. So I was very involved in the community, not only with the cityhood, but education-wise, and also the voter turnout and education through the Democratic Party. So that's how I got here. When we became a city, I sat down with my husband and he said, you should run for the seat. It was him to encourage me to run. I said, no, I've always helped other people run. I don't want to run. I said, I think we're a city. This is what we got, cityhood. He was like, no, I think you should run for the seat. He said, we got to put people in office that have a financial background, and I want somebody to run for office that I trust. I grew up in this neighborhood. I policed in this neighborhood. We raised children in this neighborhood. I want my representative to be someone that I trust. And so it's no slight against the other candidates that ran against me, because there were 10. There are some very good candidates. They were all male candidates.
I know.
And they were very good candidates. But it was the people who decided that they wanted me to lead. And I'm grateful to that. I don't take that for granted. And
you have a background in finance.
Yes,
accounting.
I have a BA in accounting from Savannah State University.
Savannah State?
A master's in accounting.
And a master's?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
A master's in financial accounting. My background is taxation. So just like law, there are several areas that you can practice in accounting. There is a broad field, and my niche is tax. Okay. And so that is my background, and that's what I've been working in since I've finished college. So I took that knowledge and I applaud a lot as we go through certain aspects in the city. And we have a council with people from different backgrounds, and which is helpful because you need different backgrounds in order to be successful.
You do. You need diversity.
Right.
And so you do need diversity, and you also need collaboration.
Yes. And we need the residents as well, because these seats belong, and I always tell people, my seat belongs to you. And I try to govern and get consensus from residents before I make decisions. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to always get every vote right. But one thing my residents will say about me and can say about me, if I don't get it right and you tell me we don't like this, you need to go get this right, I will correct. I will do
you will work for that.
an immediate corrective action.
An immediate corrective action.
Because I do not take for granted that this is their seat. And I'm here to govern for them. And if it's something that I feel that I need to influence them about, then that's when it takes education.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. So isn't she just a jewel, a wealth of knowledge, has a great, impressive background. She's been an active force in her community. So any of you that's looking to run later in life or in other areas, I'm hoping that Helen inspires you, and that you see it just doesn't take someone going out and getting campaign signs and what all do you get? A campaign manager. It takes more. You have to be connected and have relationships. And I actually worked with her on the campaign trail, and her neighbors in her community knew her. They knew her and her husband. And I just, again, now I'm in the campaign process, and I'm realizing God really sent her to me. As I've mentioned to you guys before, I am spiritual, but I still will kind of cuss you out. I'm just kidding. But I am a spiritual woman. And I do believe that when I was working really hard, it was myself, her, then we pulled in Raynard from the city of Atlanta. When we got together, I prayed for God to send me people to help me, because you can't do it by yourself. And Helen has been just a force to reckon with. Hey, Malika, I so love what Councilwoman Willis is doing. I wish she had District 6. Oh, my. Okay, so hey, Malika, we're going to just.
So can I give a full disclosure?
Yes,
right,
yes, let's do the full disclosure.
The full disclosure. a disclaimer, not disclosure.
Oh, okay,
disclaimer.
Yes, ma'am.
I am not a spokesperson for the city of South Fulton. Our mayor is a spokesperson for the city of South Fulton. I represent District 3, so I will speak on behalf of how I feel and the residents of District 3. However, if anyone on this Facebook Live has any questions regarding the city, I will provide you answers to the best of my knowledge. And I encourage all, if you don't live in District 3, please try to work with your council persons that represent you. I want to make that full disclaimer. I don't mind answering any questions. I don't mind going into if anyone's district, but I do give district courtesy if I have to go in someone's district and let them know I'm in your district. I've been invited to do this in your district, and it's up to them whether they want to participate or not. But my goal is to not only represent District 3 to the best of my abilities, but I also want to see our city as a whole be successful.
Absolutely.
So I just want to make that known, because I don't want anyone accusing me of trying to be the spokesperson for the entire city.
Absolutely.
And my mayor does know that I am doing this Facebook Live with you. I made sure that he was okay with it, and he made sure that I understood that I make that full disclaimer as we proceeded.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you did that, because it's important for you to help others see things from the truth and the light, so that it's not misconstrued and miscommunicated. Oh, Helen was here doing such and such. So I'm glad you did give that disclaimer. I brought you here because there's been so much going on. I know there's a tunnel with some positivity, and we're going to bring some of that out today by having you here discussing some things. So since you brought up the mayor, everyone knows that on the campaign trail, he was not my choice. we have since had a chance to have a sit down, and you know, I am the type of person that if I know that I was wrong for doing or saying something, then I'm going to be woman enough to apologize. And so I did sit down with the mayor. We've actually had a really good discussion about why I did not want him to be mayor. And we are on a different page now.
Right. We moved on.
We have moved on. We have moved on. Okay. So how do you feel about our mayor as a leader? And let's talk about how you feel about him as a leader and why you have supported his vetoes.
I respect him as a person, and I respect his experience. He was the commissioner for most of unincorporated South Fulton, the only commissioner for most of unincorporated South Fulton, which is now the city, for a long time until they gerrymandered in. And now M. Darnell represents some of the district. So I respect his leadership, and I respect him as he has a wealth of knowledge. He thinks of things that, as an elected official, none of us. He thinks of things that we wouldn't think of. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't know to think of, because none of us have been elected officials. Right. Not only that, he knows the county side. Mm-hmm. Because he's worked that side for 14 years. And so the county is now our that's our vendor. Right. That's who provides our services. Mm-hmm. And so I supported all of his vetoes, because not only because he made the veto, but because I got consensus from my community. And when the community
consensus from your district,
from my district, mm-hmm. from District 3.
And so on the matters of course, we know the council aides was mm-hmm. vetoed. What were some other vetoes by the mayor?
The election day was vetoed.
The election day holiday.
The holiday was vetoed.
Okay.
The expenditure for council aides were vetoed. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that was vetoed was election day, the expenditure for council aides, and help me out.
I just remember those two, but I want to say maybe one more.
It was one more. It was mm-hmm. 3. The seal. The seal. How could we forget the seal? The seal was vetoed. And so basically, before I said I was going to support the veto, I got consensus from the community. And mm-hmm. the district that I represent, you don't have to ask for consensus. They are very astute. They are very engaged. They will call you. They will email you. They will call my husband, because a lot of them have known my husband his entire life. Mm-hmm. Tell your wife this. Then law enforcement will call my husband. So I don't have to go out and get consensus. They will come to you. Right. And District 3 is the second highest voting district in the city of South Fulton. Wow. And I don't take that for granted.
Well, we're glad that you know. And I'm sure your constituents are glad.
So I supported the veto number 1 because it was the consensus of my community that they wanted me to support the veto.
And that is so important. Yeah. And it's so very important, because that's the purpose behind being the city council representative. Right. You don't just represent Helen. You're actually representing your constituents. Right. And what their needs are, and what they are looking for you to represent them.
And one of the things I want to say, that along the cityhood trail, one of the things that was very important to us was for us to engage with the community, for them to get consensus on how they felt. If I got consensus from the community that they did not want us to become a city overwhelmingly, I would have backed off. Okay. But I was the only one out of 72 candidates that registered to be a lobbyist on a volunteer basis.
That's right, you were.
Yes. I remember.
You helped me circumvent through.
Right. I remember LaDon Blackett-Jones sitting down with me at a restaurant, and we sat down and we did a lot of the flyers mm-hmm. for the legislation for the General Assembly. Mm-hmm. I made so many relationships, and
that's important.
Met so many legislators. I got involved in the General Assembly process, mm-hmm. learned the General Assembly process, learned the way that things work. Mm-hmm. But most of all, even down to the General Assembly, when we're going through this process, what they were saying is that what is the community saying? What does the community want? Some of the legislators did not want to give us the approval to move forward with cityhood until they saw that the community wanted
that. Right.
So we had opposition, and we had people who wanted the city. We had people who didn't want the city. I was that person that respected your opinion either way.
Right.
You know, we had people who were engaged to fight against us. And we had people that were engaged to fight.
I remember those vote no signs.
You have people but you have to respect that. That's part of democracy.
That's what democracy is. Correct.
Right. And then you have people who said they wanted cityhood. So either way, we had engagement on both sides, the yes and no vote. And so I'm that type of person. I'm big on community engagement and and I want to do what people want. And
you've been doing that. And I'm sure that I can appreciate it because she is my adopted councilwoman.
So specifically the vetoes, I just did not think that the election day was something that we should move forward with right now. I originally was
because that does require funding.
It may require funding. We didn't know, and so that gave me pause. But what really gave me pause is when I had employees coming to me saying, Councilwoman Willis, why are you all messing with our holidays? If you all make Columbus Day a holiday, our kids are out of school. We're going to be burdened with trying to find daycare for our kids.
Oh, wow.
And so...
And that's something to think about.
And that's something to think about. And then truthfully, how many people actually live in the city? So how many people is that really going to...
But then there's so many other opportunities. There's late voting, early voting, weekend voting. There's so many opportunities to go vote now.
And then the people in District 3, like I said, District 3 is the second highest voting district in the city. They don't need to be educated. I mean, they turn out and they vote. So
that was obvious.
And they made that known to me.
Right.
And so I just did not think our focus should be transition. We should focus on transition. The other thing was the council aides. I did not feel like it was fiscally responsible to spend $300,000 and pay part-time council aides $44,000 a year. Number one, we have several departments that are not fully staffed. Our communications department is a one-person show. She needs staffing.
How many are in HR?
We have 2 people in HR, and they have to still transition over 300 employees. Our purchasing department is going to be, I don't know how she's going to do it. She's a one-person show, and every department that we have to that is left to transition, Parks and Rec, Police, Fire. Parks and Rec already have, they told me they have over 100 vendors that they work with. All of these vendors are going to have to be transitioned into the purchasing
department
process by one person. So operations and transition is the most important thing at this time.
And that's what a lot of us have actually been asking for. We've been saying, what is the detriment and harm if we don't transition the municipalities like police and fire?
I'm not going to speak that into existence because we're going to make it happen.
I know we are, but
it's going to be a lot of hardship on the employees that we do have because they're going to have to put in long hours. I just mentioned some of these departments are staffed by one individual. It's going to be very hard. It's going to be very challenging. And so if something goes wrong, the first thing our residents are going to say is that you have incompetent people. We have very competent people, but we have to give them the help they need in order to do the job.
Correct.
We have to pay them at market rate so we can not have to worry about our employees
making mistakes.
Not only making mistakes, but we want to retain them.
Absolutely.
We don't want to train them and they go somewhere else, and then we have to start. We lose institutional knowledge that way.
Institutional knowledge.
Yeah. So we want to retain that.
That's right. And I think also we still have to pay. Aren't we still paying some money to Fulton County when we keep services?
As long as we keep employees on the Fulton County side, we have to pay. What we have is a intergovernmental agreement.
So let's break this down. So you guys get your pens together. Remember I told you get your pens and paper. She's about to drop some real nuggets here. You may already know, especially those of you in D3.
Fulton County invoices us on a monthly basis. And so I have in my hand the Fulton County, a summary of the invoice that Fulton County invoices us for. And for a full month invoice, Fulton County is, we have to pay Fulton County on an average of $5.2 million.
Okay, so we pay them $5.2 million
let me give you the exact numbers. In May, we paid $5.2 million. In June, we paid $5.2 million. July, we paid $4.9 million. In September, we're going to have to send them a payment of $4.7 million. And so we have to pay them because they're our vendor. So they still provide our police, our fire, our parks and recreation, and public works services.
Wow.
And so
we would save money.
Right.
Because
built into this cost, yes, we will, because built into this cost is an administrative fee that we have to pay. And that administrative fee is about 6%. And so
that's like $900,000.
Well, I don't have the exact number, so I don't want to give that to you. And it's not broken out with the administrative fee, but we can get that from finance.
But it's still a fee that we save money on if we were progressively transitioning departments.
Right, and we have to have everything transitioned by November 2018.
So there's your question answered, Pamela. Who's first? But we have to have everybody transition by November 2018. But the city council and mayor, you all have kind of staged a schedule for the transition.
That's fluid.
It keeps changing because we're let me just say, I'll say it. It keeps changing because there's been so much focus and back and forth about salaries. There's been so much back and forth about these aides. And in my opinion, because this is not Helen, to me, not enough time spent on transitioning.
Well, I think distractions are a part of it, but also as we move to transition departments over, what we find out is that a lot of departments have IT infrastructure that was not taken into consideration.
We talked about this before.
So they have a lot of IT infrastructure. Not only that, now the departments that we have left to transition over, they have employees who require uniforms. They have vehicles that require branding and logos. So we transition these departments over and put temporary seals and have to buy uniforms and put temporary logos on them. Then when we do have a name and a seal, we have to go back and replace that. So we transition code enforcement over, and alone it costs us over $4,000 just to put temporary seals on the 30-something vehicles that they had. So when the next department that we transition over will be Parks and Recreation. And so they have about 50 or 60 vehicles in their fleet. They have about 50 employees. And then you have to think about, we have to go through and and brand and put seals and logos on all of our parks and our recreation facilities, because once we transition, we no longer can use Fulton County on
their logos.
We can't do that.
So why haven't we dealt with the seal and the city name, I guess, a little more aggressively while we work through the transition?
Well, there has been a resolution for the communication director to lead that process, work with the community, get consensus, and have something by December 31st. Now, I will say that, let me give the acknowledgement, there was a community group called the People's Campaign, and they did come into one of our work sessions, and they did an excellent presentation. They have done some of the legwork.
Oh, wow.
I think that whenever the communications director decide what vendor we're going to use to move forward that process, that work that they put in should be taken into consideration.
Right.
Because although it did not, the argument is that a lot of people weren't involved. What I would say is that everybody had an opportunity to be involved. And they did have several community members involved, and we should take that vendor, I would ask to take that into consideration in the process, whatever process they're going to use to go out in the community and get consensus and move forward. But we have to move forward. I mean, our name, our brand is everything. It impacts our economic development, and it impacts us operational wise in the city.
It does. And so let me kind of help. There's some feedback here, and I'll get back to some of the questions that tie into what we just talked about, because the transitioning, I think it's more clear now. I have been pushing that the city council, the elected officials should be really working on the transition more and focusing on that more, because as you can hear, that's a very intricate part and role in our sustainability, in our ability to no longer have to send this check over to Fulton County. And it helps us to become this new city that we are. So the priority, like Helen has said, for the seal and branding became into place once we had the communications director. So let's talk about that for a minute, because I think in our minds, as a community, we were thinking, well, we have a city manager, and that person has an assistant. Why doesn't everything get done? And I must say this. I must say that as a city manager, I don't think I would want to do the job of the communications director, because could Ruth have actually pulled this off by herself? Because she have, come up with the seal? Because she have come up with because that's what I think we'll hear after today. Why didn't the city manager do it? Why didn't the city manager do this?
Well, that's not her job. The city manager, let's talk about the city manager. We have an interim city manager who's doing a good job. Now let's talk about why we brought Ruth here. And Ruth will tell you, she came on board to help with transition. She said it in an interview, because she was recommended to us by our transition team.
Right.
And so we didn't have time. We got elected in May. So when we got elected in May and sworn in May, we had to hit the ground running.
Right.
And so the transition had done a lot of legwork, and we appreciate the legwork that they did do in a short period of time that they did it.
Right.
And so she was brought on, and she said during the interview, I understand that I'm not here to be permanent. I understand my role is to help with the transition. And so the reason it was she was voted on unanimously.
I remember that.
Is because of her knowledge of the county. She was once the assistant accounting manager with Fulton County. And so if anybody knows anything about me, I'm going to do my homework.
Right.
And so I did some homework and checked her out. And she has not only a wealth of knowledge, but she is well respected. She's well respected in her industry. She's well respected in Fulton County by employees who knew her. And they felt like the feedback that I got, it was going to be a good choice, because she also had the relationships that we needed to navigate through the transition process. So the interim city manager is something that she is. She understood that she was coming in on an interim basis. And yes, we knew that we needed to eventually move forward with searching for a permanent city manager.
Right.
That process has begun.
But we haven't even transitioned.
The process has begun.
We haven't transitioned
for me, and I'm speaking for me, we do need a permanent manager, but Ruth is not, she's been handling the process for months. I don't see us just cutting her off December 31st.
Right.
She has too much knowledge. She has too much information of what has gone on since May. And so it's going to be in my opinion, a transition period.
It should be.
If she leaves in December, a new person comes in December, the new person is going to have to figure out what's going on. And so I do feel that we need a transition. We do need a permanent manager. We have begun that process. The RFP went out. There's going to be an executive search. And I also would like to let people know that the nomination for city manager belongs to the mayor.
It does.
Now, we can go to the mayor and we can say, look, these are some of the qualities we want to see in a city manager. This is the type of city manager we would like to have. But the nomination belongs to the mayor.
Correct.
And we have to respect that process.
I agree.
And the city manager is not a person, it's not a dictatorship from council to the city manager and a dictator relationship from mayor to the city manager. The city manager is the person who's supposed to run the day-to-day operations. And sometimes the city manager is going to have to say no to the city council, no to the mayor, if it's not in the best interest of the city. What his or her fiduciary responsibility is to the residents of the city of South Fulton.
Right. Right.
And our job as persons is to be policymakers. Policies and budgets.
And policymakers, that means creating ordinances.
Ordinances, resolutions, and also budget. So once we do our job, we're out of it. The city manager then works with the staff to execute policies that we have implemented.
And I really don't think we understand. I think based on some of the conversations I've been in, some of the things I've read, there's just confusion as to who runs this and who does that. And I'm very glad to hear you clear it up. So you've answered 2 questions. I just want to go back over what happens if we don't transfer police services by 2018, and pretty much we would still be cutting the check to Fulton County for those services.
Yes, we have until November 2018 to transition everything. The goal is to have police transition by February. Okay,
the goal by February. Okay. And so we answered that question. Now, what is the overall strategy? Well, let me answer, what is the overall strategy for law enforcement? That was that question answered. The overall strategy for law enforcement is to hire a chief of police.
Yeah, so that process is in process too. So there has been an RFP put out to search for an executive firm to hire both to search for a chief of police and also a city manager. So there is an RFP on the street now, and to search for
the chief.
No, for an executive firm. For an executive firm, and the executive firm will conduct a international search, not international, a national search.
Okay.
For a police chief and a city manager.
Okay.
But let me clear this up. The hiring is different. For the police chief is hired by the city manager. Okay.
Well, because I read in the charter, she pretty much hires everybody.
The police chief,
with the exception of who the mayor nominates. The mayor has a couple of nominations.
It's a city manager hire, and then the nomination is the city manager hires the police chief, and then the mayor nominates and sets the salary for the city manager.
So I want to stop right here. Let's put a comma, because let's just say hypothetically that we transition into this new city manager, and the city manager is in charge of hiring a police chief. It's going to take the new city manager some time. They haven't worked with our police department. I'm just trying to paint a picture here, people, for you all to understand the timing of transitioning the city manager is very key, and it should not be rushed because this person has been working to hire people. She has been working with the current and existing employees, and she has been hearing from a lot of the community. So if she was to exit stage left and we get someone new, I can almost imagine what that Facebook Live would end up being like, because now this new person coming in that may not have any experience with us as a community and or these employees will be starting from ground zero. So that's kind of why I've been wondering, well, why is it there's a push for the city manager? The city manager, and I shared this on the campaign trail, that person really runs the city. And I know that she's interim, but I guess from my standpoint, I was kind of envisioning after transition, we would look for a permanent city manager, only because everything, departments, municipalities would be transitioned. You will almost be kind of like handing everything over and kind of working with your new city manager to help them circumvent through the really important things that have been taken care of.
Well, here's
that's just my opinion, y'all.
Well, this is my opinion. Okay. I'm going to defer back to the charter. The city manager the nomination of the city manager belongs to the mayor.
It does.
City council votes the person up or down, yes or no.
Correct.
Okay. In my opinion, since it's the mayor's nomination, we should take the lead from the mayor on how he wants to proceed.
Right.
If he feels that he needs to go to the community and conduct, interviews and get feedback from the community, it's his nomination. We have to respect his position, and we have to respect the powers that the charter has given to the mayor.
That's correct.
Because if I was a mayor and someone was telling me, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, that's what people elected. Yeah, that's what people elected the mayor to do, to make decisions, to lead the city. And I like to stay in my lane. And my lane is to vote the person up or down. Now, I feel that we should go and tell the mayor, look, this is, and have conversations, not tell. Let me change my verbiage. I think we should have conversations and discussions and say, well, look, this is the consensus that I'm getting from the community, and this is what I would like to see in a city manager. And, I think you should take this into account because he is going to be in charge of that vetting process. He is going to be in charge of that.
And I want the community to really just make a decision in your mind to understand the process. And, it's okay to question things, but at the end of the day, when you continue to ask the same question over and over again, and I think you're expecting a different answer, it is what it is. Refer back to the charter. And I'm going to ask this question. Is it true that the IGA for police costs the city of South Fulton $1.1 million a month? What will be that cost when the police transition to the city? Do you know the answer to that?
I guess I'm trying to understand that question.
$1.1 million a month?
That's not, no. When the
I would say no. And
police department transition over to the city, that's going to be our part. That would be part of our budget.
So the IGA for police costs
right now
is not 1 point.
It's about for police. It's over $1 million.
Okay, so there's your answer.
If you want the exact figure,
they can contact their city council person.
Contact a city council person, and she can get that exact figure for you. Or I can do it. I can get the exact, but it's over $1 million for police every month. Yes,
and that's for just the police staff that we have currently today.
Right.
So to answer your question, Carell, yes, it is costing us $1.1 million. What will the cost be when they transition over? I would expect it to be the same cost because we're transitioning. The
only thing they're doing is providing. They're our vendor right now, the county.
Right. So we're just changing labels. We're giving them new uniforms. So that may be a cost.
No, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
But whatever costs we are paying the county is what it's going to be. You can look to be the same cost. In the city. The thing is the county bills us monthly, but they are going to do a true-up, a reconciliation quarterly, because right now what they bill us on is an estimate based on 2016 levels of service. Okay. And so they're going to do a reconciliation quarterly, and then they will reconcile actual costs. So if we have a overage, then they will give us a credit on our next invoice. Okay. If we have a shortage, then we would have to deal with that. But I'm thinking in a lot of instances, just from an accounting aspect, there more than likely will be some overages. And the reason because we have some employees that have retired. We have some employees that have separated from the SSD. We have some employees.
And say what SSD, let's break that down.
Special Service District Tax.
Special Service District Tax.
Right now we don't have an SSD. Well, we do, but it's only for Fulton Industrial. We're a city. Right. So we have some employees that have separated from the city. We have some employees that have retired. And so when those individuals fall off our payroll, then we don't have that cost. We don't have that cost. So when they reconcile, if there is any credit, then it will be applied to the next month's invoice.
Okay. All right. So we spent some time on IGAs and transitioning, and I'm going to read LaDon's comment here. It says, can we make a part of the city manager application process that they submit a 5-minute video to the community? Or let Daphne Jordan interview them after you narrow it down to the top picks. It will allow citizens to have input. We can do it different in South Fulton. Well, that's not a bad idea.
And I think that's a great idea, but I think that idea should be given to the mayor. Again, the city manager is the mayor's nomination. Yeah. And I like to stay in my lane. So I think that if that's a recommendation,
should the citizens send that to the mayor?
Yes,
how should that work?
I think that LaDon knows the mayor personally. So I think LaDon should call Mayor Bill Ellis and offer that advice.
Mhm.
And if he takes that into consideration, I think that's his decision.
Okay.
I just
actually
like to
like
move
that
away.
idea.
I actually love that idea.
Mhm.
But again, it's not my nomination, and it's not the city. I mean, I like to go back.
She's
to the
trying to
charter.
stay in her lane, LaDonna.
I like to stick to the charter. If we could all stick to what the charter says, I think we will be in a much better position.
I could not agree more. So let's go on to another question. This has come up a lot, so I am gonna deal with it right here, right now, because I know you'll be able to give some insight. So there's been a lot of questions about pay and salaries and why do people make so much money, and and so I did my research on the charter, and I came on and I did a Facebook Live and explained who does the hiring, and we come back to the city manager, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a period when it was just the city manager, then she hired Michael Cuffey. Well, let's just kind of think about that for a moment. There were no computers, there was no internet, there was no phones, there was nothing. So these two together had to get the office together, the whole city council office together. And they did that for relatively, about a month or two? Mm-hmm. All right. So now let's speed up a little bit. So it is in the city manager's, I would say, power to hire who's next, the HR director, right? So she hired the HR director. It is her discretion. She did not have to have a panel of people to approve who she hired.
So let's talk about the HR director. The transition team did recommend to city council some individuals that we should hire or consider hiring as HR director. Mm-hmm. When we got elected, we didn't have a city manager in place. So per the charter, when there's not a city manager in place, then the council has to act as pretty much the city manager. Okay. So our first thing we wanted to do is get a clerk in place. We want to get a city manager in place. We want to get a city attorney in place, and we want to hire HR director to help us transition employees over. So the city manager and the HR director positions were interviewed by the council. They were interviewed by the transition team, and the transition team narrowed. They did a posting through Georgia Municipal Associations and through some other sites, and they interviewed individuals to narrow the candidates down. So when we got elected, during our first week of transition, we from the transition team to us, we interviewed candidates for the city manager. We interviewed candidates for the HR department, and we interviewed. There was only one candidate for the CFO that the transition team recommended to us, and that was Frank Malazzi. So we didn't have to. We interviewed him, but he was the only candidate. So of the candidates that we interviewed, Ruth was our candidate for city manager, and then Zena Cooper was our candidate for the HR. Okay. And we also picked a number 2 candidate in case if Zena could not, because she was employed and she was employed out of state. And so in case if anything happened, we picked a number 2 candidate. And that's how we got Anquilla. Okay. And so, but that was
all decided by city council.
But that was because we did not have a city manager in place. So we had the power to do that. But once Ruth was hired, what Ruth did was she did go back and she did do her due diligence, and she interviewed Zena again. And what I would tell you is that we have some very professional, qualified individuals working in our HR department. Zena has a SHRM certification. And so every profession, not every profession, but a lot of professions have certifications. And she has the SHRM certification. One of the things that we charged her to do by resolution is to complete a paid-in-class study, because we knew that the salaries that were
existing
or adopted on the county side were not in line with what other cities were paying, and they were really too high, and they were too high for us to afford to pay. And so what she did was she not only used the Archer study, she also used the DCA average, and she also used multiple comparable cities.
What does DCA stand for?
Department of Community Affairs.
Okay. All right.
And they work with industry standards.
Okay.
And so
she used Archer Study, DCA average, and she reviewed the existing salaries that the Fulton County was paying employees.
And so
3 different markers.
Comparable cities, meaning she looked at cities that were comparable to our size, that had the same government structure, similar government structure, and similar population.
Okay.
And so
and also I would think it would include the what is it called when you have to look at how much home you can afford? What is that called?
I'm telling you what she did.
I know what she did. But you can't compare our salaries to California because cost of living. So I'm pretty sure cost of living was in one of these.
That's what the DCA does.
Okay, perfect.
Department of Community Affairs. They take all of that into consideration. And then when you look at cities comparable to our size, all of that
was
so
taken
she
in.
did a robust study.
And it's on the city website.
I shared it in my newsletter. And so
when she shared it, what happened? She presented it to the council?
And so also we also told her we wanted her to hire between minimum and mid salaries. No one should start on the top end.
Okay.
Number one, we wanted to make sure people had some place to go as far as promotions.
I see.
We can't afford right now to pay anybody on the top end. And so everybody was hired that was transitioned at their current salary. And then they also, any new employees that were hired, they were hired between the minimum and the mid range. And based on the compensation, the pay and class study that we adopted, most of the salaries in the study, all of the salaries, if not most of them, are lower than what the county is currently paying.
Right. And did y'all hear that? They are lower. So here we have, to clear things up, we have a pay and class thorough study done. It was presented to City Council. You all took a look at it and you measured the range of salaries that you wanted the HR department to offer, because when you get hired now by the city, of course, she's been given the authority to go, get these employees through the HR process. So I'm assuming how it works at my job is when you apply for a job, you send your resume into HR. And then the hiring person takes a look at the candidate, and then they should be doing an interview and determining your pay based on your skills, qualifications, and background. Does that sound about right? So that's what had to be set up before people could be hired. That's why this pay and class study is so important. And that's why it's more important for us to move on about salaries, because once she presented this to you, not just you, but the city council, what was the vote on it?
It passed.
It passed unanimously?
Yeah, we adopted it.
So it was a resolution, so you all adopted it.
No, it was ordinance. It was a resolution, and we adopted it.
We
adopted the pay and class through a resolution.
And this is the tool that will be used by HR to pay.
Yes, it's our pay and class. It's adopted.
Do you all understand that? Do you all understand, those of you that have been, really adamant about why does such and such make this? Why does such and such?
And we are paying employees at a market rate. We don't want to create a revolving door for employees. We want to retain our employees. We want to make sure that we are competitive. Yeah. We don't want our employees to get hired by our city and then within 6 months, they're being hired by another city because they feel like they can make more money doing the same job they're doing for the city. We have to watch out for that, because if we do not create a place where we're paying market rate salaries, then we will spend money. People are not going to want to work for us. Then not only that, we will spend money getting this employee trained, and then
or getting less qualified people trying to train them up, and they don't have the equivalent.
We will lose institutional knowledge.
Yes.
And so training costs. And so we have fair market rate salaries. That's it. The council has adopted. We didn't adopt anything without a thorough review and study done by a certified HR manager.
Certified.
I said certified.
Certified. So for those of you still wondering if Zena's qualified, that should answer that question. She's certified.
So let's go back to the transition though.
Oh.
Okay. So once we hired Zena, put her, when she was put in place as the HR director, she was responsible for working with her assistant, which is Aquila, to implement HR procedures and processes.
Right.
So
because we're starting from zero.
Right. We're starting from zero. Mm-hmm. So therefore, the city manager, whenever anyone is hired, the city manager ensures that they go through this HR process. Right. Applications have to be posted. People have to apply for jobs. You go through the background check. If you are selected,
and you got to set up systems for all this. It's just not something you just walk through the door and say, well, just send your application in online.
So a lot of the work that she's doing is very manual.
It's ground up.
Right.
It's a startup. I don't think people understand. I've been in a startup before, Helen, and I'm telling you guys, unless you have worked for a startup, you cannot even begin to imagine what these new employees are going through. Like day one, they had nothing. They're starting from ground zero, implementing in the technology infrastructure to communicate with the technology. It's a much bigger beast, and that's why we don't have this kind of time to continue talking about salaries and why does such and such make this. It's out there for you to see. The city council approved it. From this day forward, if you have a question about someone's salary, please contact your city council person, because I can tell you, Helen can explain it to you.
Well, if not only that, I'm going to provide you with the information I provided in my newsletter. I'm going to provide you with the methodology she used to adopt, and what methodology she used to complete the pay in class study. I'm going to provide you her statement regarding the pay in class. I'm going to provide you the facts.
With the facts,
so for anybody to say that we're paying too high of salaries, it's just not true.
It's not.
I mean, a thorough pay and class study was completed. Most of our employees are being paid lower than the county rate. We are paid, all of our employees now are being paid at market rate. And then she also dealt with the attrition, meaning that if you have a supervisor and employee, the employee is not making more than the supervisor. She's, so we had employees that were in that situation.
Oh, wow.
She also dealt with that situation. And so I can assure you that our HR process is fair, is equitable, and no one is just walking into our city just getting jobs. The transition team did not hire anybody. The transition team
made recommendations.
They made recommendations, and we're thankful for that. Right. Because when we sat through the little interviews that we had to sit through for city manager and the HR director, I said, look, I don't have time. I'm a policymaker. I don't want to be in charge of hiring. That's not what I was elected to do. It was very time consuming.
Right.
And so we have 2 qualified people in HR. I hold them in high regard, and we need more of them.
And they don't have assistants. So speaking of assistants, Michael doesn't have an assistant, but Michael is Ruth's assistant. Let's just go ahead and dive. I think we've cleared up the salary piece. You did talk about that. There was one other piece I was going to bring it up, but I'm going to come back to it because you hear all the work that she's describing, and they haven't asked or hired assistants, right? So let's just go right to the recent, the meeting from yesterday. Let's just cut to the chase. It's been going on for almost 2 or 3 months now.
Yes, and we really need to move on from it.
I know. I'm sorry, but we're going to talk about it. Can we talk about it?
Okay.
All right. So let's just back up from I think when I first heard that there was a recommendation to hire assistants, I think I just fell out my bed or chair. I was thinking assistants for part-time city council. No, nothing saying that you're not doing the work full-time, Helen. But, when you look at these elected officials' positions, it would behoove them to think that when they were running on the campaign trail, for me, it would be in the understanding that you are a public servant first. And you're part-time.
Let's address this and let's move on.
She's like, Daphne, no.
Because as an elected official, I've done all I can do in reference
to it's frustrating, I know.
And so now it's up to the residents. If they don't like it, they need to go to their council persons and do whatever it takes to hold them accountable.
Right.
Because I did what my constituents wanted me to do, and which was vote no. for the expenditure.
Okay.
And so I also did my due diligence. I did my research, and I called cities that were comparable to our size and had the similar government structure. And I provided that research in a newsletter. And while I do think that, yes, we do need help, I felt like the alternative was the internship program. It was voted down, and in my opinion, I feel like it was personal. Because in my opinion, and I'm entitled to say that.
You do have your opinion.
I felt like it was personal, and I felt like everybody horned in on the AIDS, and that's what they wanted.
And they didn't let up.
And they did not let up. And I lost that battle, and I'm fine with that because I did the research. I presented the information to the community. No, most cities are not. The council persons don't have personal assistants. They have co-shared resources. We're in our emphasis stage. We have to be fiscally responsible. There are a lot of unknowns. And again, like I said, we have departments that are staffed by one individual that could have used the money to increase their head count in order to help us through this transition and operate the city. However, it was the will of the council, majority of the council, not the council, majority of the council to move forward with the expenditure. We fought when I said we fought, we tried to encourage them. The mayor tried to encourage them not to do this. He vetoed it. His veto was overturned. The city manager recommended this is not a smart expenditure right now. We should not do this. There are other departments that need to be staffed. That was ignored, and they moved forward with the expenditure. Our budget has the expenditure in it, and it's the will of majority of the council to have council aides. And
now it went from 4 to 7, though.
It's 7 council aides. They will be under the clerk's office.
Will you have one of the aides?
He has to hire 7 council aides. He has to hire 7 council aides. I cannot tell the city manager, the clerk, or anyone who to hire and who not to hire. That's not my role, and that's clear. But what I did do today is have a meeting with the clerk, and I said, I need you to make sure that whoever you hire in these council aides roles, in these positions, it needs to be a fair, it needs to be an equitable process. They need to go through the HR process. We do not need to have friends in here.
Ex-campaign managers.
People, I said, I'm only going to tell you that the type of qualities, if you ask me, what do I want to see in a council aide, I will provide that to you.
But what is the council aide's job? I don't even understand.
The job description he's working on, so that will be posted.
Oh boy.
That he's working on a job description. He said he's going to be working with HR to work on the job description. That will be posted, and you will see the responsibilities for the job. I am not taking any resumes. If anybody wants to
don't
apply
send her any resumes, you guys.
If you send me a resume, I'm deleting it out my inbox. If you want to apply for the position, apply for it through HR, and I won't have anything to do with it. The hiring process
at all.
So
they'll just show up and tell you, Helen, this is such and such. He'll be helping you. He or she will be helping you.
However he wants to handle that process. Not any of us are supposed to be involved in the hiring process. Not any of us.
It's in the charter.
We're responsible for setting policy and budgets. It was budgeted for him to hire 7 council aides. As the city clerk, he is supposed to work with Ruth, the city manager, and the HR team to execute it.
And so Belinda says, could the city manager have counseled the council members' assistants, or was she in agreement to hire 7 part-time assistants at $40,000? It's actually a little more than that. Are there other cities comparable to ours with council assistants?
Again, I did the research. There are cities comparable to our size. No one is doing this. This is the city of South Fulton thing. So the city manager recommended that we not do it. She had in the budget, she had a recommended column and she had a requested column. In her column, she originally had no money applied because her recommendation was for us not to do it. In the requested column, it had money for the council aides because that's what the council struck. However, there was a resolution and it passed, and it was in favor of hiring council aides. There was a veto, and it was overturned in favor. So, as a city manager,
and wait, it was overturned because we started out with, what was it, 4 votes, then it got vetoed, then it came back, and then we got a 5th vote. So that just kills. There's no veto process at that point.
No, there is a process.
Okay.
The mayor has the right to veto. We have to vote on the veto, and it takes 5 city council persons to overturn the veto. And he got 5 votes to overturn his veto.
But not the first time. The second time there was a 5th vote.
No, there was a vote, and the council approved the expenditure by majority of the council, 4 votes.
4 votes.
The mayor vetoed. In order to overturn the mayor veto, he has to have 5 votes.
Yes.
He got 5 votes to overturn his veto.
And so I need you guys to do your research on how that 5th vote came into play.
Well, what I will say is that is the will of the council, and the city manager put in the original budget. That was not her recommendation.
But there was a little rumble about it was in the budget before for city. I think they got it confused because I went back and read it myself. The city clerk was looking to hire assistants, but because there was not a budget in place, it was scratched because there was no budget.
No, what happened?
See, I get it wrong.
Going back to when we first got elected, the clerk, and he's within his power to do that because he is managing the resources for the city council.
Correct.
He recommended that we hire 3 full-time assistants or either 7 part-time assistants. Now, he's not an HR specialist.
Right.
He's not an HR specialist. We didn't have HR in place
At the time, right.
And so none of this went through a pay in class. None of this we didn't even have a position for council aides.
Correct.
Because again, most cities are not doing this.
Right.
So he came from the county where the county has assistants and executive assistants. So he's basing his knowledge off of the county. Mark Massey is excellent. I mean, I can't take anything from him. But as a department, as a department head, if he says, look, this is what we can offer you, it still has to be vetted. Do we have the money for this? When it was given to our city manager, she then said, we don't have the funding for this. That's why it never moved forward. So when he made his recommendation, it never did. It was not a part of the pay and class study. There was no position for council aides.
Right.
Since then, we have an HR director. She did do a study, and she recommended that council aides should be paid at a pay grade 10 at $15 an hour.
Oh, wait, $15?
Yes, she did. She recommended.
Do you hear that?
She recommended that the council aide should be paid.
But is that equating to this $40,000?
No, because the council decided that they wanted to pay the $44,000 a year.
Wow. For part-time aides. Are these part-time or full-time?
But the recommendation, when our HR director did the pay and class study, she recommended that we pay them at a pay grade 10, and we pay them $15 an hour if we had to hire.
If you had to hire. Okay.
Okay. So her job is not to tell us to hire or not to hire, but her job is to make sure that the salaries
is adequate, competitive.
Right. If are in line with our pay and class study that we adopted.
Right.
So she did that research. She provided that information to our city manager, but the city manager, it was not going to be favorable. So that's where we are, and it's out of our hands now. And I really would like to move forward.
Yes, we're going to move forward. So we're going to move forward. I think that if you missed some of this, you can always replay it back. But I think there were a lot of huge nuggets. Tori Tomlinson says, wow. Yes, Tori, this is a big wow moment.
Hey, Tori.
And again,
Let's answer some of the
Let's
questions.
answer. Yeah, let's talk to some of the people. Helen's like, let's.
One question I saw is, could the chief judge, Carell asked that question, can the chief judge be, where it is,
Where
go
is it?
up,
Oh,
can
go
the
up,
chief judge be an appointment from the city council?
Here it is. Many would like to see the chief judge and solicitor position as a citywide vote versus appointment. That's not what's in the charter,
Okay,
Carell.
so Carell, you need to talk with your state legislators because we have no control over changing the charter.
Yeah.
If that's something that you would like to, you live in House District 62, you need to call up William Bodie, and your senator in that district is also Donzella James. So you will need to defer, you need to speak with them because the city council has nothing, we cannot overrule what's written in the charter. That is a general assembly process.
Okay. There was one from Chief Meadows. I wanted to actually, hey, Luana. Hey, Alvin. Hey, Janet. I see your comment. I ain't gonna repeat it. Let's find Chief. Oh God, did I miss? Bear with me, y'all. Y'all know I try to run this and look at your comments. Chief Meadows actually broke down the cost of training new officers. And I think that's something we should consider since, public safety is huge. Here it is. It's huge on my totem pole. Chief Meadows says it costs nearly $100,000 to train a police officer in 18 months.
That's true. The estimate I got is between $80,000 to $100,000. And not only do you have to train them, you have to get them acclimated to the community. And so, as we lose officers, that is very that is concerning to me because
you and I fought to get more police,
right.
And we did get them, and then we've lost them. I was told my number was a little high, so I'm not going to repeat the 30 again. I'll just tell you, it's not exactly 30, but it's right at 25. But it's still not what we had. We had 24. As of January, but we have had a significant loss in police, and we are literally hoping that we can move forward with more positive work from our city council that puts us in a different position to transition over our police into a position that in a place where they want to come to work. So we know that. Well, first of all, let me say, Chief, thank you for sharing that information. Someone did ask that earlier, I think, and so you did share or shed some light on that. Belinda says, yes, internships, how could the city manager be ignored? She was, so I can't really answer that one. The description is to do the work the city council are supposed to do. I'm just trying to read through some of your comments here. We won't know what the job description is until it's posted. That is correct. So we don't know much about the city council aide jobs, but we do know that they're in the process of hiring. So why don't we keep our officers? I don't know if Helen can answer that.
Well, some of the things that I've heard from the officers is, and I'm going to be honest, is that number one, they feel like it's disrespectful to them. They're on the front line, and they feel they're working with a shortage, and so some of them are working long hours, and they feel like for individuals to feel like it's okay to pay council aides $44,000 a year, walking in door at a part-time rate, and the starter rate is $41,000. A lot of them have expressed that their displeasure, and so they don't feel like a lot of our administration value our officers. What I will tell you is that we do value our officers. I value our officers. I value our officers. I think we have one of the best police departments in Metro Atlanta.
They are thorough.
It's just not enough of them.
It's not.
They care about our community. Whenever I call on them, they participate in community events. We haven't had any.
They are true 21 century policing, by the book, y'all.
Yeah, they believe in 21 century policing.
Yes.
They have had, they've been very respectful.
Very.
And I'm not just saying that, and people say, well, you are biased to police officers. I'm not saying that just because I'm married to one, but I'm saying that because these have been my encounters with the police officers in our community. And one of the officers told me that their concern was EJ. So EJ is extra jobs. So if you know the life of a police officer, a lot of times they may not make a lot of money, with their regular salary. So they look to extra jobs, and they're paid at a rate sometimes at $30 to $40 an hour. And so with them coming over to the new city, while they were able to work throughout Fulton County because they were Fulton County police officers, they're only going to be confined to the city of South Fulton. So you have to take that into account when you start talking about compensation as it relates to the city police officer in our city. So what I would tell you is that, we love
Fulton County
we
Police.
love our public safety.
Yes, our firemen.
We love our firemen. We love our police officers.
Yep.
We appreciate what you do. We appreciate you putting your life on the line. We know that there is not enough of you, and our work, continue to work with our city council to make sure that we do everything in our power to make sure that we put public safety first. Most of us, if not all of us, campaign on public safety.
That is true.
And so
that is so true.
They should be given priority, and it impacts our economic development.
Absolutely.
No, people want to come to a area where they have good schools, where they are safe, and where they have an opportunity to have thriving, where their business is going to make money.
And so you all know how passionate I've been about public safety. We really have an opportunity here to show them that we care, and that's through the work that we see through our city council. And so coming from last night's meeting, I will be honest with you, my heart really went out to our officers, because it has just been something that has gone on for way too long. Well, they have their aides now. What I'm speaking for myself, what I'm looking for is the work. We need to get busy doing the work for the transition and for the people. So Helen said she wanted to move on, but she broke it down for you guys. And I think I have one other question, Helen, that did not make this list. And I want to make sure I ask all the questions from your constituents. So if you guys, we're going to probably be on for about another 30 minutes.
Well, I want to mention some of the good things.
Yes.
While
I find your question. Sure.
That we have done.
Okay. Yes. Let's do that.
And so I want to ask the community to be patient. We have only been a city for not a year, over approximately since May, June, July, about 6 months now. And we have accomplished a lot. We have transitioned our code enforcement. We have transitioned our planning department and our business license division. We have a bright future ahead of us. I think cityhood was an excellent idea. I think that we have a promising future. 10 years from now, we're going to look back on this and say, "Whoo, this is." I'm looking forward to our documentary.
Oh yes,
I am. I am too. I think most of this is growing pains, and I think that individuals should try to work with their city council persons, not be so critical at times, but work with their city council persons for solutions. Hold them accountable. Hold me accountable if I'm not doing the right thing. But try to come up with solutions and work with your city council persons and your representative and the mayor for us to be successful. We have police. We have the transition over fire. We also have public works. We also have parks and recreation. We got to do this together. I love the community engagement. I love it. This is, sometimes there were a lot of lonely nights at that Capitol when we didn't have community engagement. This is what cityhood is all about. So I don't get upset if someone expresses their opinion, even if it's not favorable towards me or any of my peers. That's what cityhood is about. And Stonecrest, people compare us a lot to Stonecrest. But what Stonecrest did is they contracted out.
They outsourced.
They outsourced. What the city of South Fulton did is bring their employees over from the county. So their transition process was able to move a little faster because they didn't have to worry about transitioning employees over.
Correct.
It was decided for us to keep our employees for many reasons. And so I think in hindsight, we may have taken a different direction in some areas, but we're moving forward and we're going to be great. And we need all of you all to work with us in being great.
Okay, so you have some questions in my email. So she says, first, I would like to say thanks, Helen, for all that you do in our community. We need more council members like you to continue pressing for fiscal responsibility. I won't repeat what she says here. I'll just show it to you later. Are there any efforts going toward cleaning up the prostitutes in the middle section of White City Road? Do you know where that is?
Yes. White City Road is in District 3. And what I will tell you is that our police department is doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. When we get our numbers up, our police department and I will work with the new police chief, and we will talk about addressing those issues. I cannot tell you that that was a concern of mine for a very long time. When a police chief get in place, they will, and then when we get our numbers up, we will have more opportunity to be proactive with some of these matters.
Correct.
So it's not only White City Road that's an issue. We have prostitution throughout our city and other areas that's an issue.
Yep.
I am confident that a year from now, you will see a change because we will have a police chief. I believe that our numbers will be up and our police officers will be in a position to be more proactive.
I believe that too. And then is there an update on the apartments at the corner of Roosevelt and White City? They were remodeling, but that has ceased.
So what I will tell you is that there is a moratorium on all of our zoning and planning. And so I don't have an update on that. I will have to find out who the builder is, who the owner is, and I will have to work through our city planner to get that information. And that city planner will have to work with our code enforcement department to go out and see if there are any code enforcement violations. Did they say there was a code enforcement violation?
She didn't say, so what I'll do is I'm going to email, I'll just forward the email to you so you can continue.
Those.
Yeah,
yes.
Of course. This one comes in from Beth. She says, thank you, Daphne and Helen, for doing this. I have a few questions. Question one is, what's the recommendation from the transition team on the priorities to address the beginning of our new city? One, I think you've already answered that. She already answered that, Beth. Also, can you explain why a permanent city manager wasn't hired to start on the city the first day the mayor and council started?
Well, the recommendation from the transition team was, number one, transition our employees over as quick as possible because it was going to not be fiscally responsible to leave them on the county side. The city manager was not permanently hired by the transition team because they could not make any binding decisions. And they wanted the mayor that was elected by the will of the people to have his opportunity to nominate the city manager. The mayor is responsible for nominating the city manager, the clerk, the municipal judge, and also the clerk, the municipal judge, and the city manager.
Okay.
Those are his nominations.
All right. Why can't a concession be made on the council aides? Can it be considered to have 1 to 2 aides to support the council? Why? So is that why Parks and Rec's budget? So I don't know. How did that make you feel considering one of your platforms was to improve park services? So I think, Beth, from last night's meeting, what may not have been cleared up is that it didn't come from the Parks and Rec's budget to fund the 7 council. And we didn't really talk about that.
Okay, so the funding for parks, it did not come from Parks and Rec. And District 3 has the largest Park and Rec facility in the city of South Fulton, which is Walmart Park. So, and everybody knows how I feel about parks, so much so that my nickname in the community is the Park Lady. Not
the gas station lady anymore.
So, Yes, I was very upset, and District 3 was very upset. As a matter of fact, a lot of my residents were in the audience. And so, no,
Yes.
let's just move on from that, because it did not come from the park. They decided not to mess with Parks and Recreation.
Right.
The money came from what happened is that
Gonna break it
the
down for you.
police department still had allocated to them code enforcement, funding for code enforcement. Code enforcement is no longer a part of the police department. Code enforcement is now on the planning and community and developmental services.
They've been separated out.
They have been separated out. However, the money was budgeted in community and developmental services for code enforcement. So therefore, you had funds in community and developmental services, and then you had money that was attached to police for code enforcement. So after further analysis, when they went back and discovered that there was money allocated to code enforcement for police, then that created extra money to allocate in other areas. And so yesterday, our CFO did a presentation, and in the presentation, I'm going to give this to Daphne to share to the public. He explained how he allocated the $1 million.
And I posted this in the group already.
Right. And so with the money that was allocated, it was allocated to fully fund community and development, $487,000. 7 council aides was funded for $322,000. And then a budget manager position was created for $107,000, and additional council operating expenses, that supplies $31,500, and mayor and operating supplies for $3,500. If you add all those up, it should come up to the $1 million.
So that's where the $1 million is, that people have been asking, what happened to the $1 million?
So the money was allocated in police for code enforcement, but code enforcement had already been funded on the August 11th proposed budget to council. So that's what happened that's where the money was found. There are no slush funds. There are no, that's where the money was found for those positions. And it's detailed in budget changes, and I will also include this in my newsletter.
So that's when we were there last night, I saw this and I was mortified, because I'm just going to tell you how I felt about it. And I know Helen wants to move on, but if you break down 7 into $322,000, that's the equivalent of 7 police officers. So let's move on, because I will get so.
Yes, let's move on.
Okay, let's move on. Because I'm so passionate about that. 7. That's 7. That would have been 1 additional officer per district. Okay. So anyway, so now we have answered all questions. Let's kind of go through some of the comments. Y'all, isn't Helen a burst of information and knowledge? Like, I so love her. She is my adopted city council person. My other city council person is Catherine Rowell, or Rowell. I think I'm saying it wrong, but Catherine Rowell. And I'm going to try to see if we can get through some of your comments.
So someone made the comment, correction, some of the fire personnel are women. Yes, they are. And
so we should have said firefighters and not firemen.
Well, fire persons.
Fire persons.
And so I apologize for that. We also have several police personnel that are women.
Correct.
And we appreciate your service. And and
Chief Daniels' question.
And that was no disrespect.
Yes, we are so. Yeah. Oh, Chief Daniels is with our.
No, he's retired.
Oh, he is.
He was the former fire chief.
Oh,
hello, Chief Daniels.
Hi, Chief Daniels. You never know who's in here. Hi, Chief Daniels. We're sorry about that. And he says, thanks, Councilwoman Helen, for being positive about our city's future. One clarification: it's firefighter. Some are women. Okay, we do apologize for that. We stand corrected. And I'm trying to see were there any other questions. I think we went through some of those. Police officers and detectives put their lives on the line daily to protect and serve. It's insulting to pay them the same as a part-time counsel. That's from Belinda. Lisa says, great information tonight, ladies. Thank you. Demita says, so council is hiring a firm for $145,000 to search for city manager.
So that was reduced. And so for the search firm will be paid. We have allocated in the budget $90,000.
Okay, so that's a budget line item now that we can go out and see.
Right.
Okay.
So it's $90,000 allocated to hire a search firm for police and for the chief of police and also the city manager.
Okay. And Trina, hey Trina. Trina says, "Are we keeping all Parks and Rec staff, or will some jobs be phased out?" We don't know. When we do the transition?
As of right now, we are transitioning all employees that are on staff. There are no plans to phase out any positions at this current time that I know of. I don't deal with the hiring or the firing, but as far as I know of, it is budgeted to transition all employees that are currently on the Parks and Recreation payroll.
Okay. And Chief Daniel says, "We just experienced our first major weather emergency as a city. How do you feel code red the emergency notification system function?"
I feel that the overall emergency plan there's room for improvement.
Okay. Alita says, "Thank you for openness." Brandon says, "You're very, very informative." We don't have any more questions. Does anyone have any more questions? We can probably hang out for about maybe 5 more minutes. We're running into an hour and 35 minutes. So thank those of you that have hung in here, who've asked questions. This is how, well, let me say this. If you have a different city council person, this is the type of dialogue you should be able to achieve and receive from that person, I guess, at any given day. But I asked Helen to come in and be transparent and come here and just talk to everyone, even if you aren't in her district, but to just kind of clear up some things. She has kind of been like the lone wolf on some of these issues. And I must say that takes a lot of confidence to stand on what you believe in out by yourself. Like, I really applaud you. And I know you don't want to talk about certain issues, but we got to give it to her, because it's easy to follow the crowd, you guys. It's hard to stand on what you believe in by yourself.
Well, leaders don't follow crowds.
Oh,
you know, I've never been a follower. My mother would tell you that. My mother is a retired school teacher, 31 years, and she has never had to come to school and worry about her child following the crowd. I've always been. My grandmother taught me, if 99% is wrong, you be that 1% to do right. And she has been that. And I'm going to try to always do right by my residents. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to always get it right. But what I will do is truly get consensus from the residents, and then make my decisions based on the consensus that I'm getting from the people that I represent. The people that I represent, I love them. I respect that they put me in this position. I don't take their votes for granted, and I need them. I am having a town hall at Welcome All Park on October 4th, 6:30 for District 3. I'm working in partnership with our Parks and Recreation, and Welcome All will be hosting their first fall festival on a Friday. We want it to be very community oriented. We're asking the communities in the Welcome All community to come and set up trick-or-treat tables so that the kids can come and meet and learn the different communities in Welcome All Park. That is on October 27th on a Friday. And I've already shared it in my newsletter. If you're not getting my newsletter, please send me your email so that I can include you on my distribution list, so that I can give you, so that you can receive my newsletter. And we need you all to help make us, the city, successful. The city is a good idea. It's a great idea. It was a great idea. We're in control of our own destiny now. We are. So we're destined for greatness, and we have to believe that.
We do.
We have to believe that, and hold us in spite of everything that's going on. Continue to hold us accountable. Continue to hold us accountable.
And show up to these meetings.
We need you.
We need you at the meetings, you guys.
Tuesday,
tell them when the meetings are.
Yes. So our meetings are every Tuesday, every second and fourth Tuesday.
Every second and fourth Tuesday.
We have work sessions our work sessions start at 6. Our regular meetings start at 7. You can have comments, public comments, before the regular meeting. We meet right now until the end of September. We meet on Tuesday for a work session at 6 o'clock. But our work sessions won't be every Tuesday starting October 1st. So October 1st, meetings will be every second and fourth Tuesday. Get there at 6 for the work session. Get there at 7 for the regular session. We need you engaged. We need you involved. Remember, these seats belong to you. It's not for me to, for you to show up and say you want me to govern a certain way and then I go off and do what I want to do. No, I represent you. And my District 3 residents, they make sure that when I look out into the residents, when I look out into the audience, I see my District 3 residents. A lot of them come to the city council meeting.
Right.
And
we need more representation, you guys, from other districts.
Right. And they will, and I know them because I knocked on their doors and had conversations with them. So I remember them. I may not remember all the names, but I can look at most of them and tell them where they live, who they are, and they know me. And I met another one last week, yesterday, Mr. Allen. And Mr. Allen told me, I don't live in a subdivision, but I live off of the road, and our whole community meet at houses. If you want me, I will come to your community. If you meet in a house, community center, wherever, invite me. I have 3.
And you've been doing this without assistance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 3 this weekend. This weekend is my birthday. Saturday is my birthday.
Saturday is my birthday.
Falcon Forest is having a community cleanup. They need volunteers, so please go to the Falcon Forest community.
Okay.
I'm going to put that in an email, and I'll share it on they have a flyer.
Okay.
They're having a community cleanup. I'm going to do what I can to get to the community cleanup.
On this Saturday.
This Saturday.
On your birthday.
Yes.
You're going to be cleaning up on your birthday?
And then on Sunday, I'm going to a HOA meeting. I was invited to Thaxton Reserve, so I'll be going there Sunday.
Excellent.
And then Monday, I was invited by the Gillette Trace community. And so
Somebody's your community. She's coming out. She'll be out there. You've gotten a lot of nuggets tonight. So we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to give you, look, Trina says, I learned so much. Thank you, with like 5,000 exclamation marks.
Well, I'll do this again. I didn't know that so many people. I did live videos when I campaigned.
She did.
And
she loves the camera.
Yeah, no, I don't.
She doesn't love the camera in a vain way. She likes to be informative.
Yes.
And so she was, oh God, I used to love your Facebook Lives because they were always really good. And we have family coming in from
I'm actually
practice.
shy.
Are you really?
Yes, I'm actually very
wow.
shy.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And thank you for opening up your home
to me. You're always welcome here.
Thank you, Walter Jordan, for allowing me to do my live videos. That's what I love about Daphne. That's what she loves about it. We're so real.
We are so real. And Chief Daniel says, thanks for this Facebook Live. This is better than the local news. I would have to agree with you on that. This is better than the local news. Demita says, thank you, Councilwoman Helen Willis, with 5,000 exclamation marks.
I love Demita. Demita worked, she is one of the hardest working community members in our community. Demita worked alongside of me for years now, and she was fighting for cityhood before me. So I love Demita. Tell Mr. Rainey I said hello, Demita.
Alvin says, thank you from D4. All right. And then Janet French says, thanks, Helen. In the meantime, I'm waiting for my council to do the same. Listen, reach out to your councilwoman or man, council person, and find out what's going on. When are they going to have activities? Some of them are sending out newsletters, but above all, Helen is giving you when you should show up at the city council meetings every second and fourth Tuesday. Oh, and what's the address? Because it's not, I don't think they may know where it is. It's at City Hall is at Stonewall.
You mean the meetings?
The meetings are at City Hall.
At the Stonewall Tail location, at the South Annex of Stonewall Tail location.
Yep.
Listen, I love the residents of the city of South Fulton. I love the city of South Fulton, and I love my colleagues, and I love my mayor. So God bless you. God bless your family, and God bless the city of South Fulton. That's what Greg Pan would say.
That's what Greg Pan would say? Oh, wow. And look, Chief Meadows is still popping in here with us. Hey, Chief Meadows. He says, thanks, ladies. No, thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you for all that you're doing as we come on into the city of College Park.
And we're gonna need you, and that's
Yeah,
another
we
thing.
do.
And I'm gonna say this: one thing
Yeah.
about me, I collaborate with my colleagues in other municipalities, and so that's very important because we touch each other.
We do.
And
what happens in one will end up maybe going to another.
And so we are so blessed to be surrounded by people like Chief Meadows,
Yes.
you know, Vince
Our
Williams,
East Point Police are in here with us. I won't call y'all's
right,
names.
East Point Police Chief. We also have
our Fulton County Police
and our
And
Marshal
even some
Department.
too.
Our Fulton County Marshal Department helped us out during the storm. They
Oh, they
directed
did,
traffic for us. So we're blessed to be surrounded by great leadership. Mayors, we are surrounded by great police chiefs. We have Cassandra Jones over in Union City. We're blessed.
We are.
And so, City of South Fulton, there's too much resources for us to fail.
There it is.
I mean, that people are willing to help us and people want us to succeed.
Yes, I agree with that. So on that note, we're going to end it on such a high note. And again, I encourage you to work with your city council, plug yourself in, invite them to your meetings, to your HOA meetings, and plug yourself in. And if nothing else, come out to the meetings on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday.
And if you live in District 3, don't forget about the town hall and listening session
on the 4th,
on October 4th
at Welcome Park. At 6 or 6:30.
It will be at 6:30.
Okay, so at 6:30, I know I will be there. And so we appreciate all of you for being here. We have been surrounded. Look at all, we had 177 comments. I know I probably could not address everyone in here. I want to say hi to Chris Jones if you're still here. I didn't get to give you a shout out, Chris. Thanks for joining us. And Aletha. I think I've shouted out everybody else. But hey, everyone have a good night. And I hope this was helpful. Give me some feedback. I don't know who I'm going to have on next. I'm going to bring Helen back, but I think I should probably do this like once a week. What do you think?
If you have time, but I do know our chief municipal judge will love to do a live video.
Okay, so the new chief municipal judge,
yes, her name is Tiffany Sellers.
Tiffany Sellers. Yeah. All right, so I will be reaching out to her to see if I can have her come on board and do a Facebook Live, and stay tuned for that information. And as you know, I'm still working on the initiative with the marketplace. I'll keep you as informed as I receive information as what's going on. What is the plan? The weekend is rapidly approaching, and so I am still working on that in the background. But thanks for joining us, and you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Be blessed.